You just detect that there's a face, but the problem is that it's very unclear how that actually works. And so there are many privacy implications surrounding that.
Holy Mackinac. What a night last night with Joe Bowen. Man, I went home last night just kind of rethinking the interview and playing it back in my head and then watching it again. It was just amazing.
It was also great because it's rare you have a guest, as soon as they start talking, you're like, man, that voice is just so iconic, and it's so everybody knows who it is.
And we also knew the second that we started, okay, this is going to be a fun conversation. Right?
It was right off the top. It was all laughs.
It could have been, the big jug of Crown Royal.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
I'm not judging. Last one to judge.
It was great. It's funny because, we do pay attention to which shows people engage with the most, right?
Yes,
what topics they're most interested in, and but we run the gamut. There's all kinds of different things, but that was definitely one of the top 3 best interviews I've ever been involved with on the show.
Question.
It was amazing to listen to Joe, to hear his story, to hear the great gratitude he has for the fans, and how I don't sense any ego in that man at all.
Oh my God!
Right? I mean, a kid from Sudbury ends up being the voice of the Toronto Maple Leafs for 44 years. And he's joking in ways that, you'd expect a regular person to be joking.
Yeah, very self-deprecating.
Yeah, and I love that. I think that's probably the secret to success. I think that's the secret to everyone's success. Don't be a jerk, and you'll do well. But he was fantastic. He was fantastic. And you know what? It's going to be an emotional night for him on Tuesday for sure.
Kidding. Yeah.
And I think as the months wear on and the season wears on, it's going to even be more emotional, right? I mean, that's all you've done. You've sat in that gondola doing that.
It would have, and I don't want to put the announcer's curse and jinx on it, but it would have been nice to see him end his career with a Stanley Cup.
Maybe this is the year. I don't follow it closely enough. How are the Leafs doing?
Well,
no, they're not.
Derek,
They're
coming around.
They're coming around.
Maybe if they win,
so is Christmas.
They turn the corner when Joe Bowen comes on Closer Look.
You never know.
Think of that.
Stranger things have happened.
Closer Look gets action.
It'll be the first time, I'll tell you.
All right. Speaking of action,
lots of
it at Union Station. People talking about
this is crazy.
Yeah, I love this story.
Yeah.
Emma Johnson Wheeler at Toronto Today has been reporting on this a lot. They have these billboards there that are basically they will detect people walking by, and they can gauge whether they're male, female, age, and it's all about gearing ads on targeting ads on these billboards.
That scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, because you figure thousands of people are walking to this bus. I think it's near the bus terminal where these ads are, right?
Yeah.
And it all started on Reddit. I guess someone noticed it, on Reddit back in November, and it kind of blew up from there. And I hadn't heard of this group, this Technologists for Democracy. Had started raising a lot of concern about these, just the privacy issues. Do we know how they're collected? What are they doing with this data? The company insists that it's quickly deleted. It's all about collecting data on the numbers of male, female, that kind of thing that walk through, the age, the demographics. But we don't really know how this stuff operates. So you're basically you're looking at the billboard, and the billboard's looking back at you. But it also just raises a whole bunch of questions, and we're going to talk to our guest tonight about those issues. We're living in an age of rapid technology, right? Never before. The way things are moving so quickly, just AI and how much better AI has gotten just in the last 6 months alone in its capabilities. And we're going to live in this world. This is the world we're moving into. And how we have to figure out the ways to embrace that and to understand that technology, and what's on our shoulders to understand about privacy rights and things like that. And I think so it's a good window into a bigger discussion about all these issues. But let's start with billboards that are recording you, basically.
Imagine looking at a billboard and realizing it is watching you back. That's happening right now at Union Station in Toronto, where some billboards are equipped with facial recognition detection that generates stats about your estimated age and your sex, which allows advertisers to target their message to the right demographic. Not surprisingly, this tech has raised some eyebrows, including those of the Federal Privacy Commissioner. Here to fill us in on what's happening is Adam Moto-Akil from the organization Technologists for Democracy. Adam, good to see you. Welcome to the show.
Good to be with you.
All right, Adam, we're going to talk about facial detection billboards. But before we get into that, tell us about your organization, Technologists for Democracy. What is it, and what's your mission?
Sure thing. So I'm a co-organizer at Technologists for Democracy. We're a group that was created around mid-May due to a pilot program, self-driving delivery program from Magna International that was running around Toronto. We found out that they were collecting data on people's faces, and we were very concerned about the privacy issues surrounding the pilots. We also found out that City Council was holding deputations around this issue. So we organized and sent an open letter to Magna International. And this is how we got into the advocacy fight for privacy.
All right, good stuff. Adam, for the benefit of the audience, what's your professional background? Do you work in the tech world?
Yes, I'm a software engineer.
Got to be honest, Adam, until I read about this on Toronto Today, I had never heard of facial detection billboards. What are they and how exactly do they work?
Yeah, so basically they're digital billboards that are equipped with cameras that record footage on the environment and people. And what they do is detect for presence of people and specifically presence of faces. It's not very clear how the technology works, but it is supposed to be anonymized. So the technology specifically is called anonymized video analytics. And it's supposed to be that you don't recognize faces individually in the sense that you don't identify them, personally identify them. You just detect that there's a face. But the problem is that it's very unclear how that actually works. And so there are many privacy implications surrounding that. And the idea is that you use that technology to then better serve for advertisers to tell them, hey, this is the proportion of men and women are going around these concourses. This is their age group. You should probably have this type of ad displayed.
So it's not literally like an example of like you're alone and you're standing looking at this billboard and it's looking at you and saying, I'm going to change the ad because it looks like it's a young male standing in front of me.
Not necessarily. That would be very difficult. Like that would be very jarring.
Yes.
However, it does aggregate the data and in a way creates something that profiles you individually, but it's not individually identifiable.
So we read about these ones in Toronto at Union Station at the bus terminal there. Are there others you know of in the country?
So actually, if you go to Cineplex Digital Media's website, that's the company that supplies these billboards at Union Bus Station. They'll actually write that these billboards are available around malls and concourses around the country. It's not very clear which ones still have those cameras working. That's something that we would like to investigate. But however, at this time, it's not very clear.
So you brought up some of the privacy concerns. What are the major concerns that your organization have with these billboards?
First of all, there was barely any consent taken, and provided by the company. When you go personally to those billboards, you'll find that there are massive billboards and they're placed at very key locations, the exits and the entrances. And so there aren't really any ways to avoid them. If you're transiting through, you have to go through Union Bus Station or you have to go to a correspondence and on-go stations. You have to go through these billboards, and there's a very small privacy notice right next to them that's very barely noticeable. And when we were interviewing people around the concourse, telling them, "Hey, there's a camera being recording you. Did you know about this?" The only people that knew about it were the heads of those of that program in the specific building, or they heard about it in the news. Other than that, the majority of people were very concerned about the privacy concerns related to those technologies.
For sure, because most people are walking by and they're not thinking about this. They're going on with their day. Never. They're trying to catch their bus and they're moving along. They wouldn't even think that this stuff even exists. Do we know, Adam? I guess one of the questions you're trying to find out is they say it's anonymous, that it's quick, they do it quickly, and they're just recording data. But we don't know that for sure. We don't really know what they're collecting.
Exactly. Yes. There's no way to verify that it's anonymized, and we have to trust those companies' words that it is in fact anonymized. But to actually get to go into those systems would require, actually going into the company's intellectual property, which is, that's a bit problematic.
For sure. So you did file a complaint to the privacy commissioner, and from what I've read, it sounds like they answered pretty quickly and agreed to open an investigation.
So we actually did not file a complaint to the privacy commissioner. What we did first is something that they outlined, is that you should contact the company first and let them know about your concerns. And then if they haven't answered or they responded and still you're not satisfied with that response, we can file a privacy complaint. What we've done so far is send an open letter to Cineplex Digital Media and CIBC Squared, the real estate managements that holds that retail space. However, once we find out more information, we can then send a privacy complaint. What we found out in the meanwhile was that other people filed privacy complaints around this issue, and we've been very satisfied to see that the OPC has actually commented on it.
Adam, have either of those companies gotten back to you?
CIBC Square has not gotten back to us. CDM has gotten back to us and has responded that they've been acquired by Creative Realities, an American company based in Kentucky. And so what they've said is that they will redirect our concerns to Creative Realities. I would like to highlight that this is another pain point, that this is a US company that's potentially siphoning Canadian data and storing it in places that are inappropriate.
When I hear about these kind of stories, right, Adam, this is the challenge. It's hard to get people concerned, excited about privacy because they just don't think about it, right?
Never.
But there is all kinds of consequences with this. Why is it so important that people pay attention to this and ask these questions that you're asking?
Well, one thing we need to realize is that actually Canadians are very concerned about these issues. There was a report around mid-May released by the Office of the Privacy Commissioner that highlighted some of the concerns, notably that there are a lot of Canadians that are very concerned about companies' data breaches, finding out that all their personal information has been stolen or hacked or is out there exposed and just waiting for people to just take in and hijack for their own personal purposes. If you've ever had that feeling of you're being watched by your phone, let's say you've been looking up anything like, let me look up this sock I'd like to buy. Suddenly you get, faced with a bunch of ads about socks and feet and so on. It's jarring. It's like your device is listening to you. You would think that you don't really care about privacy, but there are things in the environment that tell you that this is a real problem, and there are actual ways of fighting back against it.
When we talk about these kind of privacy concerns, right, it might not be fair to think this way, but we do think that big tech or these companies that are creating these products, they're not thinking about our privacy. They're just thinking about their profit the whole way. Are there companies out there that are in this world that don't think like that?
Potentially. For sure, there are some companies that are trying to create a product that is mostly user first, and privacy maybe like something that they really consider, but try to minimize the impacts of as much as they can. For example, I use a search engine called Keigi that's supposed to be paid for. You pay for that search engine, and the idea is that through your payments, the app can be more sustainable and self-sufficient. It doesn't have to rely on some of the other analytics that, say, a company like Google or other search engine relies on. Free search engine, by the way, that will take those data and actually use it for other services that they host. Yeah,
I think your organization certainly comes along at the right time, because I think so many people are worried about how rapidly technology is changing. A wise man often tells us, we were just speaking to him today, that technology has value but not values, right? It's technology, they can take over on their own. In this world we're living in now, Adam, the advent of AI, there's such a rapid pace at which it's developing. What kind of things do we need to be keeping in mind as this technology rolls out at this rapid pace?
Well, for one, we have to realize that technology itself we've always had battles against technology in many ways, but it's not necessarily technology. It's about more who uses that technology. If you think back about the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, you had the cotton weavers, then you had the steam machine, and then you had electricity coming up, and so on and so forth. A lot of these technologies were at first being used by a few individuals to really siphon a lot of wealth and a lot of control. However, there's always some pushback, some popular pushback, and then eventually it reaches a point where it's stable and in a way benefits a lot more people. The same thing happened for the internet. The internet is very new. AI is also very new. As these technologies come along, we understand more of their ramification and their issues, but also their benefits. We have to make sure that there's always a consistent dialogue between the people that create those technologies and us in such a way that we benefit from that technology too.
That's a great point. And we've talked about it on the show in the past. I'm the worst person in saying that I'm scared to death of this technology and I wish it didn't exist. But I really shouldn't think like that, right? I need to realize that this technology, is that accurate? Can you speak to that, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, this technology feeds off of data. At the end of the day, it's the saying of you are what you eat. AI is what it eats at the end of the day. If you expose it to heinous stuff, it will do heinous things. If you expose it to normal things, make sure that that the data is controlled, and make sure that the architecture is designed in a way that produces the desired results. There are very positive implications for AI in such a way. Let's say for journalists, you record an interview, and then suddenly you can just feed it to a model and you have a whole transcript. That saves you a lot of time and can be done actually pretty cheaply and efficiently with these current models. There are very tangible ways that this technology can benefit us.
Actually, you don't know this, but this entire podcast is AI. We're not even real.
We don't exist, Adam.
Yeah. You'd think our questions would be better.
I wasn't aware, but
now we're just pulling your leg, Adam. Adam, what's the next step in terms of the privacy commissioner complaint?
Right. So we'll first wait a couple of weeks to hear back from Creative Realities, and then maybe in a week or two, send out proper complaints. And then afterwards, we'd like to get together with all the organizations that signed our open letter to, raise more awareness about data and privacy, and then see from there what else we can do. There's a lot of architectural and computer system issues that can be uncovered in those systems if you probe the right questions, if you make sure, just try out certain things, like if you put yourself in front of the camera and then see how the ad changes over time. There are ways to actually study the effects of that technology and really paint a clear picture of what that technology actually does. There's a lot of work that can be done on that end, but immediately we want to focus on the privacy issue and the privacy complaint.
What's your message for those few people who might be listening and say, man, I don't want to go anywhere near this billboard? And they might not even have a chance to do anything different because that's the way they have to go. But what's your message to them?
My message to them is, at the end of the day, it's not directly impacting you day to day. However, it is something that you want to be concerned about. And if you are really concerned about this, it's important that you raise your voice about it and actually do something in a way that tells those companies, hey, these people are pushing back against this. This is not right. But it's not going to be something that will be impeding you day to day. But you need to make sure that this is an issue that is resolved, because over time is when those issues actually become a problem. It's you passing by the first day, the second day, the third day, the fourth day. It's not the very singular day. It's the accumulation of the days that you pass by.
Yeah. I'm interested to know how this has been for you and the others working at your organization that, like you said, is relatively new. Did you see yourself in a position like this a couple of years ago, being a person who's advocating for these kinds of changes and this kind of awareness?
Honestly, no. I studied at McGill, and I did I was involved in a lot of groups for engineering. I was part of a robotics club. I was involved in hackathons and in events that really push for a lot of optimistic use of AI, to push for economic growth and push for everyday use and very convenient ways of using technology to improve everyday life. And when I realized that the technology that I was working on, that I was personally investing a lot of time in and seeing, very important advances in, was being used for very predatory practices such as these, it sent me spiraling in a way that it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And eventually I realized that there is a space for people who are like me, disillusioned with technology, but really believe in the promise of it as well, in a way that helps people first. And it's just that we need to speak out more and actually elevate our voices in a way that tells other people, hey, you don't have to actually use this technology in nefarious ways. Here are the positive uses of this technology.
Man, it seems hard to keep up sometimes, doesn't it?
You'd fit right in here at Village Media, I think.
Absolutely. Adam, before we let you go, anything you want to close out with?
One thing I want to close out with is, ultimately, we really want to see an optimistic push for technology. This is not something where we want to tell people, this is it, you can't do anything about it. Companies are forever going to have access to this corpus of human intelligence and human data. There are ways to push back and to regulate. We've regulated so many industries in the past, such as cigarettes, alcohol, fast food. There are ways to regulate technology, and so all we have to do is just make sure that government is held into account, that we make sure that the right instances are notified by this. If there's a privacy commissioner, we should talk to them. If the company hasn't heard about any of these complaints, we should let that company know that this is not right, and then make sure that there's a proper follow through about this. There are ways of making this right. And ultimately, a better internet for everyone is just it makes a better life for everyone at the end of the day. We rely on this technology every day for many uses. It helps me stay connected with my family abroad. So, as long as we find ways of making it right, we will for sure see a better future with the internet.
Very well said. There's Adam Moto-Wakil from Technologists for Democracy. Adam, we appreciate your time tonight. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you very much.
After listening to Adam, I can see from an advertiser's point of view how this could be beneficial. So let's say at Union Station, you've got a massive billboard that is, capturing this data. And let's say the data shows that 73% of the people walking through Union Station are considered overweight.
Mm-hmm.
They can then take that data to, say, the agency that reps a company like Ozempic
mm-hmm.
and says, this may be a place that you want to buy a billboard.
Yeah.
Like, is that?
I think that's exactly what it is. Or if you realize that there's a large demographic of women between 20 and 40 that are walking past your billboard, or whether it's men 50 and over. There's all kinds of different ways they would crunch that data. So you definitely see every company wants data. They want to understand
market research.
They want to understand who their customers are. But I think that the thing about this is it's happening in ways that even though there's a barcode you can scan, it'll tell you some of their policies and how it works.
Right.
It's not out in the open. Most people would walk by that billboard and have no idea that it was there. But I have to tell you, speaking of Adam, I also feel a little bit better. I'm really trying to evolve my thinking on AI. And
I've noticed that. You're coming around a little bit.
No, I'm just trying to understand, because this tech, as I've said before, it's always scared the hell out of me because you see it imitating art. It's writing songs.
Yes.
It's trying to write the great American novel. To me, that's the worst possible thing you can say.
Yeah.
But there's applications for it for good, as Adam said. And we're going to have this technology in the next year. It's just, you can only imagine how much better it's going to be.
Oh.
So we're going to keep our eye on that. And I think it was just a great conversation to keep in mind all those issues.
Yes. All right. Good enough. Love the new jacket, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's
Shout out to Morris.
AI printed. It's AI designed in a 3D printer.
It's a cheap way to update the wardrobe.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, I shouldn't say that.
Cheaper than getting off your wallet.
No, Serge at Morris was great.
They always
Love
are.
that guy.
All right. Derek Turner, as always, producer of this evening's program. Closer Look at villagemedia.ca, closerlookpodcast.ca is where you will find us online. Frisco and I back tomorrow night at 7 right here on Closer Look.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.